The country of Great Britain is a railway country, with a history that spans the course of 150 years, with many stories to tell. These are the stories of the men, women and steam locomotives who worked and served under the almighty power which was British Railways. A time of innovation, motivation and change for the men, women, their work, and the steam locomotives and their services. These are the stories of the locomotives and their crews who worked hard under the threat of their lines closing, their jobs changing, and simply replacement, whilst keeping their spirits high through their adventures. These are the stories of the Locomotives of British Railways. Episode 2. Sir Kay's Misjudgement. Some people think that the Southern Railway didn't have many successes, when in fact, it had a lot of successes. In fact, today in British Railways days, the Southern region continues that success. Yet despite the successes and advancements, passengers are always impressed about how the Southern Railway keeps their trains on time. Especially in the days of British Railways, where every single train has to run exactly on time to keep up the image of nationalisation. So timekeeping is a big factor into the running of the Southern region, so the majority of trains must always be on time. But there can always be delays now and then. At Brighton, Nicholas had got used to his new surroundings, and had got to know a lot of the engines quite well, whilst creating quite a repertoire. So the engines were most dismayed when Nicholas had to go back to his home for a few days. But despite his absence, the engines still managed to keep the trains running efficiently, especially Johnny.
I appreciate the advice that old timer gave me. It makes me feel like I'm a much better engine than I think I am. He really does know how to bring out the best of you, especially when it comes to doing your job.
Well, that's just spectacular, my dear fellow engine, but Nicholas doesn't exactly know how to keep up to speed nowadays. You should realise that when he came into the Southern Railways from the LWSR, he was not trying to live in the past.
Oh, don't be like that, Sir Kay. Nicholas is the wisest of us all, the wisest engine I've ever met. And he is...
Yes, it is. I'm sure he's a really useful engine or whatever, but times are changing. If there's one thing that has always been apparent when it comes to the Southern Railway, that is timekeeping. Any delay will cause absolute despair for the passengers. Trust me when I say it, young Johnny. Older is not necessarily better.
Well, that's just typical of an engine like him.
Rafferty had a right to say that particular remark about this particular engine, because this is Sir Kay. Sir Kay is a very proud engine, with a very large presence in the shed, as he is one of the Southern Railway's N15s, who are better known as King Arthurs. And his class were designed and built for one purpose: express trains. And in Sir Kay's mind, being an express engine means being on time constantly, which is why he has built up quite a knack for being efficient. As he was being filled up with water, Johnny rolled over next to the N15. The Pacific wasn't done with him yet when it comes to defending an engine like Nicholas.
So, Kay, it's one thing to question the authenticity of an old engine's advice, but I think what you said about him isn't fair. What you're doing is blocking him out completely. At the very least, when I met him, I tried to see if his opinions were justified, even when I didn't realise it. Yes, our opinions did clash a tad. It all managed to work themselves out in the end, though. Now we've been getting along very well, and I'm just saying that if you give him a chance, maybe you will learn something. He has a lot to offer, you know.
Sir Kay stared at the Battle of Britain for a while and considered what he was about to say next. But of course things went downhill from here.
Well, that's just spectacular that you consider Nicholas to be a fine engine. I'm sure he is, but once again, 222 Squadron, you misinterpret my entire opinions and arguments.
What exactly is that then? And I'd rather be called Johnny?
Well, first of all, 222 Squadron is the name that is on your nameplate, as my name is on my nameplate. So I will call you whatever is on your nameplate. And secondly, it's not about Nicholas as an engine, and it's not necessarily about his opinions either. No. What this is about is to do with age. Unlike you, who was built in retrospect rather recently, me and Nicholas were built only 2 decades apart. That is why I consider our experiences and expertise do not differ all that much. Which is why I'm so strict when it comes to timekeeping. It is why I make sure I revise the timetable so I am on time with the times. If you can take my meaning, my young engine.
Maybe that's not necessarily the case. I mean, not about the whole timekeeping aspect. I don't think you should compare your experiences with Nicholas, and you shouldn't have this attitude towards him or timekeeping. You see, Nicholas is an engine who has experience that a lot of us engines don't have, including you. Like you said, it's a 2 whole decades between you two, and in that 20 years, Nicholas is bound to have picked up more experience than you, and don't forget, at one point I thought that my opinions were more significant than his, and I was foolish to think that, so maybe you shouldn't make the same mistake.
My 222 Squadron, you are a rather clever engine, cleverer than most engines your age. And it's good that you recognise certain things in order to keep your railway going, and you're also willing to learn and take in new things. But you're going to have to take my word for it that express engines are the head front of the tracks, and we will always run on time anticipating if things go wrong. You run up against a signal that says stop, and you wait there for quite some time, and when it eventually goes down, you do your best to make up for lost time whilst being efficient, smooth and look fine as you roll down the line until finally pulling in majestically into the station. Couple that up to the experiences I've had over the years, it means I cannot make a mistake. Bear that in mind, Johnny, and you won't make mistakes like you did weeks ago. And in that respect, you should consider yourself lucky that your chain valve gear wasn't too badly damaged if you listen to my advice. Think you can prevent something worse from happening?
Just then Sir Kay heard the sound of his filler cap slamming shut. His fireman climbed back down, and then he puffed towards the station to go and collect his train. Rafferty and Johnny knowingly gave a sigh of relief and a whoosh of steam.
You're not gonna listen to him, are you?
Nope.
I reckon as much. But in some respects you can see his point. But I guess he's just too stuck up in his own way to see what could go wrong. Just like you were, in fact.
Yeah, that's true, Rafferty. He is wise in his own way, I guess, but there's no denying that engine can be difficult. It's almost like if the men in the workshop put me and Nicholas together into one boiler. Actually, come to think about it, that wouldn't be a pretty sight. But I've learned from my mistakes. If any of my own experiences are anything to go by, I reckon Sir Kay will make some kind of mistake as a result of his strict arrogance.
Rafferty smiled at his friend. Now the 2 engines were prepared for whatever was to come next from the King Arthur